This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Jeez. There's one more. There it goes. One more drop of bliss. Okay, I'm all set. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Blissed? Your dial is set correctly, too. USAPrepares.com, and we're delighted that you are here. Broadcasting 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Studio A. Information's on the website. Tom's at the controls at GCN in Minnesota. Frank Underhill's with us. CEO, UnderhillSecurities.com, Las Vegas, Nevada. Frank Underhill was a trusted advisor to Bob Chapman, the late and great Bob Chapman, our mutual friend. And it was Bob Chapman who lay near death at the hospital, awaiting last rites, when he mentioned to me the day before he died that I needed to contact Frank Underhill. And that's how this happened. Welcome, Frank Underhill.
Good morning, Vincent. Glad to be here with you on this glorious Monday morning.
Hey, Frank, I've got a question for you. I spent the weekend in a camper trailer with the Dollarhite family, John Dollarhite and Judy Dollarhite. We went out to Kansas, and I noticed the absence of something in Lawrence, Kansas, in the city of Lawrence, in Kansas. I didn't see any flies. I didn't see any flies or mosquitoes. Do you have flies or mosquitoes in Las Vegas?
No, actually, very few. In the summertime, it's so hot, you don't even see a single insect out. But there are ants, but no, I haven't seen the mosquito here. And the only mosquitoes we get here are when people leave pools, still watered, and larvae, and those are bad mosquitoes, really. But no, we don't have that problem here.
Yeah, and I wonder. I saw the same thing in Virginia when I went to Fredericksburg, Virginia, for about a week, and I noticed that there weren't any mosquitoes or flies there either. And I wonder if it's because of all the spraying that people do on their lawns, the insecticides that they use in their homes, and I just wonder if, I can't help but wonder that that's what's causing it, because out here in the Missouri Ozarks, we have plenty of flies, but there's so much property out here that, a person couldn't afford to spray it. It'd be impossible. So anyway, I was just wondering, I was thinking about that this morning.
Well, here I would attribute it more to climate than of course, we have no agriculture here, or very little to speak of, but it's probably because of the how hot it is, and of course, in the fall and winter, you don't see insects anyways.
Mm-hmm. Well, I learned a new term, or I've been mispronouncing it for so long. I thought it was pronounced USDA, as in United States Department of Agriculture. And I learned over the weekend at the Mother Earth News Fair in Lawrence, Kansas, from Joel Salatin. He's a farmer in Virginia. He pronounces it the correct way. It's USDA. USDA. And really, that's as kind as a person could be when thinking about the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They have totally messed up farming in the United States. And, Frank, I'd like to tell you a short story. On Friday after the broadcast, I went over to the the Farmers Exchange. It has a new name. It's called MFA, Missouri Farmers Association, or Missouri Farm Association. And they've got these little stores all over in the countryside in Missouri where you can buy feed for your horses, feed for your cattle. You can buy the injectables if your cow needs a vitamin, if it needs an antibiotic, if you need fencing supplies, if you need fertilizer, lime. You can buy all of that at these MFA stores. Well, on Friday I was there, and there were a whole bunch of farmers. And you can always tell a farmer because we have cow poop all over us, And so I was talking to these farmers, and the subject of U.S. duh came up. And this farmer was telling me that one of his friends was talking to someone who worked at the U.S. duh and was advised that, you really should get involved with this dairy milk program, where the U.S. duh provides funding for specific farmers for doing what they'd be doing anyway. So the day came up that this program was going to be announced where you could sign up for it. So what happens is it's all secret information, and then all of a sudden one day the announcement is made, and then you can sign up and apply to get this government money. Well, this family who heard about it went and arrived at 9 o'clock in the morning. The U.S. duh office opens at 8 o'clock. When the family arrived, the U.S. duh employee said, "How'd you hear about this?" As if, what are you doing here? You don't have any inside information. How'd you get here? And then was told all the money had been already allocated by 9 o'clock in the morning, 1 hour after the U.S. duh opened up. And I asked the farmer how he felt about that. And he said, he used a term that I'd never heard before. He said, "You know what? I'd like all those guys to go away. We don't need them. We don't want them. They just mess up everything. They mess up the pricing at the market. They mess up everything they go near." And then he said, "I'd like to have a level floor, or a flat floor." And I said, "What do you mean by a flat floor? Do you mean like a level playing field where everybody's on the same starting point? No one gets any inside advantages?" And he said, "That's exactly what I mean." So he wanted a flat floor where none of the insiders got government money because they knew somebody who worked at the U.S. duh. Frank, it's horrible that these insiders always seem to get the money from the U.S. duh when the rest of us farmers don't. I don't like the U.S. duh. I really don't. And the rest, I don't know any farmers who do, except maybe those who are taking money from the government, which means it's being stolen from us and given to the select few who are their friends. I don't know if there are bribes involved. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of these U.S. duh people get kickbacks for making sure their friends get money. But anyway, it's not fair. I don't like it. And let's get rid of the U.S. duh. That's just a little sidetrack I took this morning, Frank. So.
Well, there was a lady in my building this morning, actually, and I didn't know what they did in their office there, but I said to her, she must be ecstatic what's going, because I talked to her in the morning. She has her paper and her cigarette and coffee in the morning, and we talk a little bit, and she's, she's a very right-wing conservative person. And I just casually said to her this morning, "Boy, you must be happy." And she goes, "No, I'm going home." And I say, "Why?" And she said she's getting furloughed. And I said, then I said, "What do you mean you're getting furloughed?" And she goes, "Well, they're closing us down." And so she just, and I said, well, you should be ecstatic because this is what we've been talking about for years. And he goes, well, not when it happens to you. And then the elevator door shut.
So what does she do? What part?
I don't know what they do in there, Vincent. The government. There used to be like security companies in my building here, and I guess it was all compartmentalized. And like last year, a whole wave of them, or year before, a whole wave of them got let go. They had like a colonel running a department in here, and he'd have his uniform on, and there'd be these civilian workers in here, and then there'd be, I don't know what they... Anyways, like my building is being now replaced by telemarketers and debt collectors again, and that's how it was when I first moved in here. And all these government contractors, I guess, are closing down, and this has been going on for a while. But like to see her, I thought if anyone would make it through, it would be her. But yeah, they work in secrecy, Vince. They don't talk about what they do. They'll talk to you about the the newspaper or lies about smoking and cancer and all this stuff. But they don't. She's a nice lady. She's but she didn't look too happy at me this morning.
Well, I think it would be, you talked about a wave. It needs to be a big wave. We need to close down 99% of these government do nothing, get in the way jobs. Frank, there's a story about in Louisiana. They call it a glitch. Now, they said that there was a glitch in the EBT system, the food stamp system. And what happened was the EBT limit that's assigned to each card, each one of these food stamps cards, was not in place. And because the limit was not in place, shoppers went to Walmart with their cards. Now, for example, one woman had 49-cent balance on her card, and she rang up a bill of $700 because there was a run on Walmart. Shopping carts were filled to overflowing. There was a long line. Shelves were stripped bare because people learned, hey, the EBT limit has been, it's not there, so you can just go and spend as much as you want. So a bunch of people went into Louisiana. And when we come back, I'll tell you a little bit more about that story. Interesting story about what happens when people think they can get free stuff. Free stuff. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. We'll be right back. Frank Underhill and I were talking about the USDA, as some people might mispronounce it, has this food stamp program. And the USDA contracted with Xerox Corporation to run this system. And so Xerox did a test of the backup system. And when they did the test of the backup system, it didn't come back right. So the the debit cards, that'd be the food stamp cards, the EBT cards that you and I pay for, didn't have a limit on them. So the clerks at Walmart in Louisiana contacted the management. The management contacted headquarters at Walmart, and Walmart just said, let the cards go, and we'll process the transactions. I guess they figured that since they're in so tight with the federal government, they would be reimbursed for whatever the Walmart customers spent. Well, the customers figured out that they could just use these cards to buy way more than they were used to buying. So they had overloaded shopping carts, and that caused the police to come to this Walmart store in Louisiana to make sure that everything was calm. Obviously, the police were coming for the benefit of the Walmart store because the police protect corporations. So anyway, the spending limits were lifted, and these customers were trying to charge a whole bunch. Now, where did this happen? Well, it happened in a number of states, and I'll tell you what states. That would be Louisiana, Alabama, California, Georgia, Iowa, Illinois, Massachusetts, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Virginia. Now, the system went down, and what they decided to do was revert to this manual system, meaning customers could spend up to $50 until the system was restored. I don't have the latest information on what happened, but I can tell you that there are, well, in Oklahoma, there's 600,000 that receive what's called SNAP, S-N-A-P benefits, and that's money that's dispersed on these cards on the 1st, 5th, and 10th day of every month. So the disruption came at a high usage time for the cards. Bottom line is we have a private company, Xerox, who's being paid to manage the system. So if you look, Frank, let's look at this. If you look at the companies who are doing really well in the United States companies, Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, Xerox, all those companies, Cisco, Verizon, all those companies have what in common? Ties to the government, where they're government contractors. The little companies are starving, the ones that don't have ties to the government. What do you think, Frank?
Well, like if you're a small bank and you don't have ties to the government, you're out of business. You're a big bank with ties to the government, you're in business. That's nothing new. Government contracts keep these corporations afloat, whether they're with Xerox or whether they're a defense company or one of the banks that gets lobbyists, because you got to pay to play, and that's how the system has always been.
Mm-hmm. Pay to play.
Even because you don't pay, or a lot of farmers don't pay, they're left to their own devices. I don't pay; I'm left to my own devices. But if you write the checks, then obviously you buy yourself a seat at the table.
You know, Frank, what you're saying is very polite for bribes, isn't it?
Hey, well, you can lack of a better word, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, class. Yeah, you've got to. I can't believe it. We are falling down to the point in the United States where we are so corrupt. It makes me angry to think that we have fallen that far. Our individual greed has fallen so far. It's so great that we've fallen because of it. Frank, I'd like to talk to you about a little stock market theory I came up with back in the 70s. And it indicates on a large scale the cumulative effect of individual greed. And it's the coolest thing. When we come back, I'll share with you this stock market theory. Frank Underhill, Vincent. We'll be right back. And we're back. We're back. Frank Underhill's with us. And Frank, our USAPrepares.com instructor, John Dollarhite, he's in court today. He is entertaining the judge and the prosecutor. And interesting story. He left one of our meetups a couple months ago, in the evening. And he was driving back to his home. And he didn't feel well. He was telling me as we walked out to the parking lot at the end of the meetup, he really didn't feel well, and he left, and he and his son were driving home. And so he was driving slowly. He got pulled over for speeding, and there were a whole bunch of cars that were in the same area, and of course they picked him out. And so he's in court today, and I think it's really neat because not only is he in court, another one of our instructors is in court with him. And she, the other instructor who's with him is Judy Lynn. And Judy Lynn is a court watcher. and she's an investigative reporter. So she's going to be staring the judge in the eye, and she's going to be staring the prosecutor in the eye, and she's going to be taking copious notes, and she's probably going to report. So if you want to see who she is, just go to usapreparedness.com, click on Judy Lynn, and you'll see who she's involved with. And it's like the last thing the government wants to get involved with. Frank, gold and silver. And when we started the broadcast, I was looking at the price of silver, $21.54 an ounce. Spot price, $21.54. And we have one of our instructors is in the precious metals business. And if you look at, I talk to him every weekend. And if you look at the price, the actual silver content of a U.S. silver dollar, at the current spot price of $21.54, it's about $16.60 an ounce, $16.60 in that silver dollar. But silver dollars, nice ones, are still selling for almost $36, just under $36, $35 and change. Where are we going with silver, Frank?
Well, I think silver, you're going to see it sideways here for the near future, at least until there starts to be an upward movement, of course, in its counterpart, gold. And right now, you're seeing gold take really erratic swings, like in the up direction, down direction. And again, the precious metals are very dollar sensitive, interest rate sensitive. And for this reason is why you're seeing these large swings. And actually, one would think with a economic environment like this, this would only induce a more positive behavior in gold. And because there's and gold really does not react on one day events. Gold acts in a trend, as say with silver. It's all in a trend. The trend right now seems to be sideways to stabilized right now. There's not a real big upward movement on either of the metals. But if the dollar starts to decline and erode, which it should be doing, like last week we saw the dollar, the NIBOT, the dollar index, go below 80 for the first time in a while. And gold, countered and went higher. It had a large move. But then you're seeing this 80 level on the dollar index is just sideways. But I think we need to see the dollar break. We need to see it go into 79, 80, 70, 79, 78, 77, all the way, low, of course, lower the better. It helps gold out. Mm-hmm. But I think for the short term, it's probably going to be sideways. That's my prediction.
Okay. There are a number of USA Preparedness instructors very interested, and they were buying at this point because they thought it was at a low point. And I will not disagree with them because I actually purchased some also. And I have...
Oh, I don't know how much lower it can go. There's also a mining aspect. Like, let's face it, if silver does go lower, it just won't be mining any more silver. So I don't know how much lower it can go. Are they looking at when it was like $12, $15, $8? There's got to be a cash cost incurred in the price of the metal somewhere in these levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm happy. I bought something that I normally do not buy. The price was right, so I bought some silver rounds, 1 ounce rounds by Sunshine Mint, and it's not something that I really like, but the price was right, and they're quite liquid, so I didn't have any problem doing that. It's not that I don't want you to think that I bought them at. I don't steal them. I mean, when let's say a not knowledgeable person, senior citizen says, my husband had these, I don't know anything about them, what can you give me for them? And, a coin store will offer a fraction of what they're worth. I don't do that. When someone tells me that they're available, I consider it, and I look at the current market price, and if it's just a little bit above market, I'm fine with that. But I'm not interested in taking advantage of anyone because I think it's wrong. And by the way, Frank, I wanted to do a program about that. I wanted to talk about how some of these coin stores operate. And let's just take a couple minutes and talk about that. I know a couple coin dealers, and I know some local coin dealers, and I'm not going to say that these guys are or are not doing this practice, but I know this practice exists. So a not knowledgeable person comes in and says, I have these coins, I don't know much about them, what are they worth? And then the coin dealer will say, well, are you interested in selling them? And if they say yes, then it's okay, well, here's the price that I'm willing to pay. And let's say it's a silver dollar. And let's say the coin dealer offers $15 for it. Then the person looks over on the glass counter and says, well, hold it. In this counter, you've got them for $38, $39, $50, $70. And then the response that I've heard when I was in the coin store, many coin stores, is, oh, well, those are rare. See, yours is common. Yours is not like that. Well, it looks like that. No. You see, yours is really common. Those have unique mint marks and they're rare dates, and so no, yours is common and those are rare, and that's why the other ones in the case are so much more expensive. What I'm telling you, class, is the way coin dealers make their money is they make it on the buy side. They make it when they purchase the coins from people who are not very knowledgeable, and they may offer them 40%, 50%, 60%, 70% of the true value. And then when they go to sell it, they take that coin, they look at the spot price, and they mark it above spot. So they make their big money on the purchase side. So I wanted to share that with the class, Frank. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, no question about that. The buy side's where the money's at, and of course, because they have people walking in the door to buy, and a lot of people, and I'm no exception. I'm not knowledgeable in coins or junk silver, and but also too, in lies your leverage, where a lot of these coins could be numismatic. A lot of these coins could be valuable collectibles that are over and above. These people in the business, they obviously know how to grade these, and I don't want to say it. Well, even what I do is gambling. Anyone who buys metals is gambling. Of course, you're always trying to anticipate the demand or the expectation for the future or present value of coins. So people need to be aware that when you do sell them, just like with stocks, with what I do, you have to accept what the price it is now, and that's how the economic system works on supply and demand and buying and selling. And the coin dealer is basically the broker. And not only that, they're the broker. They got to buy firm, because when they do redeem a coin, cash goes out the door.
Mm-hmm. Frank, one of our instructors was in a store, and a person came into the store and said she would like to sell this particular group of coins. And the coin dealer, she said she was not knowledgeable. And that's the first thing you don't do, class. You don't go in and say, I don't know anything about this. You're just asking to be ripped off. I don't know anything about these coins. My husband, I don't know. He bought this stuff. I have no idea what it's worth. Can you help me? To a perfect stranger, right? So she's asking a perfect stranger for help. And a coin store. Now, so the coin dealer looks at him, makes her an offer, and then pays her in cash, and she leaves. And he immediately picks up the phone, and he just can't contain himself. The coin dealer, the owner of the store, can't contain himself. He picks up the phone, and he calls one of his buddies, and he says, you won't believe it. You won't believe it. I just paid $25 for a multi-$1,000 coin. It's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. He just ripped that woman off. And, you can say, well, he offered her X amount of money for a handful of coins. And in that handful was this rare, very valuable coin, numismatic coin. You could say that, well, you know, it's a perfectly above-board trade. But you know what? It wasn't. It really wasn't, because he took advantage of her lack of knowledge. And you could say, well, you know, it's her fault. She didn't know. But you know what? She kind of trusted him to do the right thing, and he didn't. As a matter of fact, there are a whole bunch of coin dealers that wanted to advertise on my show in the Springfield community, and I won't let them. I won't let them, because of what I know about how they operate. So that's my little story about coins. Frank, when we come back, I want to just mention a little bit about the meetup tonight at Ziggy's. Really cool meetup, no kidding. Frank Underhill, CEO of Underhill Securities. We'll be right back. Class, I'd like to tell you that news flash, radiation experts have confirmed that polonium was found on Yasser Arafat's clothing. And so Swiss radiation experts have confirmed that they found traces of polonium on clothing used by Yasser Arafat, which support the possibility, and it seems like it's greater than a possibility to me, that the Palestinian leader was poisoned. Now, polonium is a radioactive poison that absolutely, positively will kill a person, and it's an assassination weapon. And unless you have sophisticated equipment, you won't find it. It causes the body to fail. And within a couple weeks, that person's dead. And there was a Russian spy and a Kremlin critic by the name of Alexander Litvinenko, and he was poisoned in 2006. So the investigation is still ongoing, and it's being conducted separately by teams in France, Switzerland, and Russia. But it sure looks like the 38 samples that came from Yasser Arafat's belonging, including his underwear, hat, toothbrush, hospital cap, other clothing, show that that polonium was on his clothing. And my understanding is that all of the developed nations have agreed that they would not assassinate the heads of other states. However, it doesn't look like we're upholding our end of the bargain. The symptoms of polonium poisoning include nausea, vomiting, fatigue, and abdominal pain. So it looks like Yasser Arafat had been poisoned. So I just wanted to share that with you. Frank Underhill's with us, and we're talking about gold, and we're talking about silver and metal pricing. And I said I would mention the meetup tonight. Dr. Judy Wood's going to be with us. I'm going to be doing a live teleseminar at Ziggy's, a PowerPoint presentation with absolutely riveting scientific evidence of what happened. And I'm going to try my best to record it so that I can have this presentation available for you on YouTube. So I have to figure out how to do that. And there's some software I'm going to try to experiment with called FRAPS, F-R-A-P-S, and it can capture video. And from what I read late last night, I can use that software to capture the presentation, and then I can upload it to YouTube. So we're going to talk about what happened to the buildings in 9/11. Where did the towers go? And that's Dr. Judy Wood. So, Frank, what is happening in your neck of the woods regarding the government shutdown? Are you seeing any evidence of anything bad happening?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's all good. But if you work out at Nellis Air Base or you work out in the other air base just north of there, they fly the Predator drone out of there, and you're going to be in pretty rough shape. I think. I think the people are getting furloughed, and people are getting laid off. But the bigger picture is this. When you don't have somebody doing a job anymore, you can figure, well, we don't need them. We don't need to call them back because we're doing fine without them anyways. Or that job has been automated or computerized and they just put another protocol in and poof, a job is eliminated. So, we are talking about smaller government. We are talking about downsizing. And this is probably a good way to go about doing permanent downsizing. Like anyone who works for the government that speaks ill of the government, they should be happy that this is going on. And like I said, as for this individual in my building, I don't understand why she isn't happy. This is what she's been rooting for.
Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli. We'll be right back after the top of the hour news and commercials. I'll give you my take on the government shutdown.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. Hour number 2. Frank Underhill's with us. UnderhillSecurities.com. If you'd like to contact him, UnderhillSecurities.com. Frank, we talk about the economy, and Macy's, the department store, for 155 years has been closed on Thanksgiving. I mean, it's a holiday that we celebrate all over America. Thanksgiving, that's where grandmothers, grandfathers, if we're fortunate enough to have them living with, being alive, our parents, our children, we all get together and give thanks for what we have, how fortunate we are. And so Macy's is breaking their tradition. It's a 155-year-old tradition of staying closed on Thanksgiving. But to help you spend money that you don't have, they're going to open their stores, some of their stores in New York and Chicago at 8 p.m. on Thanksgiving. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't take time out from being with my family on a very special day to go buy stuff from Macy's. Come on. Why would we do that? Marketing. Frank, that is an indication to me that's a very clear indication to me that the economy that is supposedly rebounding and doing well is absolutely not. What do you think?
Well, Vincent, I avoid any shopping at any real time of the year myself. And I think if there are people who want to go shopping, and can I just say, I don't want to offend people here, but for me, Thanksgiving is probably more important than Christmas because it's when the family comes together. And I think that Thanksgiving is sweet potato pie, pumpkin pie, turkey, gravy, giblet dressing. And if people want to go shopping, I think you need to get your priorities straight because it takes hours and hours to prepare a Thanksgiving meal. And so if you're going to spend hours and hours at the mall shopping and not doing Thanksgiving, I I don't think there's any limits really. It's horrible, and this is a company that's synonymous for the Thanksgiving or the Macy's parade there. So that's my take.
Yeah, that's them. You're absolutely right. So as far as I'm concerned, I am not shopping.
Families. We need families to stay together. We need families to have dinners together. We need families to celebrate holidays together. Not have another day in the mall. Thank you.
I can tell you that I don't think that within 40-mile radius of our farm here in Missouri that there would be a single store open on Thanksgiving. Not one. So it wouldn't be possible to go shopping around where our farm is on Thanksgiving, even if we wanted to. And the reason is those families who own those stores, those small stores, are with their families doing the right thing. So I think family is very important to us here in the Ozarks, and I'm glad to see it. And shame on Macy's. Shame on them for commercializing to the point where they're willing to entice people to leave their Thanksgiving family time to go and spend money at Macy's. Shame on Macy's. So,
Vincent, can I just sorry to jump in here, but can I also say if you don't have a family, you can at least be family-like. If you're a single person and you live on your own, go and enjoy a cup of coffee or tea, whatever you like. Maybe tidy your house up a bit. Maybe go for a walk in a park or do a strolling and lament on good fortunes you've had in your life. So just because you don't have a family doesn't mean you can hit the bars and fraternize and womanize or manhunt or what have you, but at least have a day where you can be family-like. Get some sleep, read a book, or listen to programs like this, and take stress off your plate for a day.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. At the meetup tonight, I'm going to suggest that anyone who does not have plans, does not have family in the area, at the meetup, ask them to identify themselves if they don't mind. And I'm going to suggest that those who do have families welcome the ones who don't have families into their family for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And that's something that we have done here at the farm. If we think that there's someone that we know who does not have family in the area or might be alone for Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter or any of the holidays where we get together as a family, we invite others to join us. And I'd like to suggest that in our class, in our radio class, that you consider doing the same thing. So if there are people that you know who are alone, don't let them be alone for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, or other holidays when families get together. Bring them into your family. Make them part of your family. And share with them the preparedness thinking, the preparedness thought process, the preparedness lifestyle. And maybe they can help you, maybe you can help them, and maybe they can become part of your extended family. So those are my thoughts on that, Frank. And I'm going to talk about that tonight at the meetup. Looking over some of my notes here, meetup tonight is with Dr. Judy Wood. We're going to talk about where did the towers go, the 9/11 towers. So if you'd like to be with us, we're delighted to have you, unless, of course, you're a politician. Then you're not welcome. All government employees, you must bring a picture ID with you, and we will photograph your picture ID, and we'll find a seat for you somewhere. I'm sure I'm sure you'll be uncomfortable. Frank, I'd like to talk a little bit about this 274 guns that have been confiscated. Did you read that story?
I did. I got a bit of a chuckle of it. For those who haven't read it, it's quite an eye-opener.
Well, tell us what your take on it is, Frank.
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone should have anything confiscated anyways without warrants or due process, and I just think it's a bit on the heavy-handed side. And, for a lot of people who do have them, it's like a collection process. Anyone who collects coins, anyone who collects stamps, anyone who collects cars, people who collect firearms. So I think that is a total encroachment. I just hope the individual gets them all back.
Yeah. Well, to give you a little information, class, Joseph Callahan is 69 years old. He's a pretty bright guy. He's a retired chemist, and he worked for a couple companies in his career. One was Remington Arms, and the other was DuPont. Now, obviously that, when when you are a chemist and you work for an arms company, it'd probably be something you'd want to do to collect some of the company's products, like firearms. Well, Joseph Callahan collected firearms, about 274 of them. All of them were legal, not illegal. They were all legal. And the Connecticut police seized 274 of his guns. This was his collection. I want you to envision this. So this swarm of uniformed police thugs come over to his house and they steal his guns from him. Now, do you think they are going to handle 274 of his collectible guns with the same care that he would have? Do you think that they would make sure that they were in gun socks, which are these fabric cases, or they would be put in cases when they took the guns out? Or do you think they just threw them into a van and rode off with them? I think it's the latter. I don't think that they were anywhere near as careful with his property as he would be. So now he's got, if he ever gets them back, there's going to be wear and tear on him. I think that he should sue the Connecticut police who were involved in stealing his weapons from him for way above whatever the maximum limit for suing them is. Now, here's what happened. This guy, Joseph Callahan, as a chemist, was also interested in model rocketry. So he would build model rockets and launch his rockets. Now, I know for a fact that high school science teachers use model rockets with rocket propellant to launch rockets to teach physics, chemistry, and science. And even Newton's law, what goes up comes down, that's what's taught in science classes. Well, this guy, Joseph Callahan, had some rocket supplies, and he was a rocket enthusiast. So let's see, what's he facing? 11 felonies. 11 felonies. What did he have? Holy smokes. He had explosives. Explosives. Well, I guess that would be rocket propellants. And maybe he was a reloader, and he had reloading supplies for some of those 274 firearms that were illegally confiscated by the Connecticut police. They came and took his guns. So we're talking about Joseph Callahan, and the Connecticut cops came to his house and they stole his guns, 274 of them. He was an employee of the Remington Arms. He worked for DuPont, and he's a chemist, a real chemist. So the reason the cops were there is he thought that someone had stolen his one of his medications and a check I guess from his checkbook. And so the cops came, and the next, you don't want to call cops, because if you do, these kind of things can happen. So he was charged with now, by letting these cops in his house. He was charged with 112 counts of illegal possession of explosives, 6 counts of first-degree reckless endangerment, and 1 count of the manufacture of bombs. Frank, this poor guy let these boneheads in his house, and now he's facing years in the clink by calling the cops. I mentioned.
He should have been listening to programs such as this that always say, try to work it out yourself, don't call the police. This fellow, Joseph Callan, he should have simply been listening to USA Prepares, taking your advice, and, so he misses a bottle of a prescription. Go get another one. Now, this is the most expensive prescription refill he'll ever get. And once law enforcement does come into your home, listeners, they do have the right to look without a warrant, because they don't need one, of course, because they're already in the home. Do you want to pick it up from there, Vincent?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Frank, I don't understand this, but all over Missouri, there are these fireworks stores. As a matter of fact, John Dollarhite and family and I pulled into a gas station in Missouri, and we were purchasing gas for the truck and the camper that we were pulling, and yesterday, and there are fireworks for sale galore. Now, some of them are just little firecrackers. Some of them are rockets. Some of them are, something that you might use on Independence Day to celebrate. Rockets that go up and explode, and starbursts and so forth. I mean, these are all explosives, right? Well, they sell them freely and openly and legally all over Missouri. Now, I don't quite understand why people buy all these fireworks, but the point is, anybody that having these, and where would you keep them? I guess in the garage. You certainly wouldn't keep them in your bedroom, right? So you might keep them in the garage, and there you have it. How many explosives would that be? Would it be 50 explosives that you could be arrested for having? Well, this guy was arrested for having 112 explosive devices. And then one of his neighbors, tells the cops that he's afraid that Callahan, this neighbor, Tom Bruderman, bonehead, said that he told the cops that he was concerned that Callahan was going to blow up his neighborhood. Well, I can understand this, and I'll tell you why I can understand it. I was at the Mother Earth News Fair in Lawrence, Kansas over the weekend. And I was talking to this lady who I thought was pretty interesting. She and her husband raise animals, and they process them, and you can buy the meat directly from them. I thought that was pretty cool. And I was interested in talking to her on the air about exactly that, what it's like on the farm. And I asked her about 911, and she said, I'd call 911 in a minute. And I said, forget it. I threw her overboard right then and there. I liked her until that point where she said she would call 911, and she did. She called 911 on her neighbor because she was uncomfortable with her neighbor. So she called 911, and she said how they got to be good friends after that. And I'm thinking, man, oh man, if my neighbor were to call 911 on me, we'd never be friends again. But anyway, so she is willing to call 911 at the drop of a hat. She has no place in USAPrepares.com. No place whatsoever. And I told her that. I told her, forget it. I can't help her, can't work with her, don't want to work with her. 911 is something that we don't do. Class, if you call 911, someone's going to jail or someone's going to get shot. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. Frank, when we come back, how about if we talk about the dollar being downgraded? Let's talk about that. Frank Underhill and I. Frank, just before we get into the dollar, may I share with you something that I learned over the last week about drug dealing? Would you like to learn about that? Did I lose you, Frank?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. Go ahead.
Well, here's what I learned. I met a guy. I met a drug dealer. It just so happened that he was representing a product, and I won't mention the product because I don't want to give this away, and I want this guy to be on the air with us. He's a drug dealer, and he was representing a product that preparedness-minded people might be interested in. Let's say, for example, it was solar power. Okay, so I was talking to this guy, and he knows who we are, and he listens to Alex Jones on Genesis, the Genesis Network. But anyway, he was telling me about running drugs and how it works. And he was telling me that the blue bloods of a particular county in the state where he lives are involved in growing marijuana. So they have these grow houses that have very expensive lighting in their elaborate systems for growing marijuana. And what they do is I'm talking about the people that you would tend to respect as the pillars of the community, the pillars of the government in the county, right? That's who's involved in growing the drugs, the marijuana. Anyway, this man was telling me, a young man, that they recruit and enlist young people to help with the distribution of these illegal substances. So these guys are the ones who are on the street, and what they do is, after a few years, when they've used up the value of the street distributors and they want to get rid of them, they set them up for an arrest. And if they'll say, okay, we've got to move this equipment out of here. And so they'll be loading up a truck or trucks with the equipment from the growing houses, and it will be prearranged for the cops to show up and arrest, these people that they want to do away with. Well, if the people who are in the distribution are smart enough to figure out, no, I don't think I want to get involved in this, and they don't do it, then what happens is these blue bloods in the county government will ostracize them from the drug ring, and they'll say things about them to make the others in the drug ring not trust the individuals they want to get rid of. Interesting, right? Well, so then what happens is the people who have been ostracized, or the person who has been ostracized, who they were hoping to get arrested but didn't get arrested, that person will need to find employment somewhere else. So what he'll do is he'll go around and he'll find another supplier, and he'll hook on with them and start distributing their drugs for about 60 days. And then the boss gets arrested. And then he'll find another distribution source, and he'll distribute their drugs. And that boss will be arrested and get shut down within 60 days. And within five of these cycles, the government growers, the blue bloods in the county, will have systematically used the police to eliminate all of their competition. Is that unbelievable? That's what I learned. That's what I learned within the last week. Frank, so what we've heard about the government being involved in the drug trade, it's done even at the local level. And this guy is going to be on the air with me. And one day I'll just have him on. No announcement. I will not announce when he's going to be on. And he's going to expose it. So that's part of the underworld that we didn't know about, and that's how it works. And I learned about it from this man within the last week. Frank, let's talk about do you have a comment on that?
No, you said it all. I agree completely.
It's a shocker. Absolute shocker. And you wonder, well, I can tell you this. I lived in a small town in Virginia, and it was thought that that I was involved in illegal activities because I moved in, I had a farm, I had no visible means of support. I manufactured computers. Our driveway was a quarter of a mile long. I raised some cows, and I was less broke than everybody else. Let's put it that way. And the head of the bank came down. He brought his entourage, all of his VPs, to our computer manufacturing company on the farm, and he wanted a tour because he wanted to know what in the heck I was doing. And people would talk about me like, that guy's got to be in the mob. He's got an Italian last name, Finelli, And they just couldn't figure out that I actually worked for a living and I saved money before I moved to Virginia. They couldn't figure out that maybe I actually earned the money that I had, and I was financially stable. They couldn't figure it out. So they always thought that, I was up to something, and I wasn't. Well, what I learned was that in our little town, that in the gas station at the center of the town, that's where all the drug dealing was going on. And it was the blue bloods in our town who were involved in the drug cartel of our little county. And at the highest level of our county government, they're all involved. Unbelievable. And before that, it was the liquor. It was moonshine that some of the community's finest names were involved in moonshine. And then they progressed to drugs. So there you have it. I saw it firsthand, and I've never been involved in it. Never. And I wouldn't even consider it. So, Frank, dollar downgrade. Let's talk about that.
Well, the dollar downgrade, obviously the dollar's going lower because of what you're seeing right now with the government malfunction, basically. So there's no leadership, and of course money goes to safety. Whether safety, I thought, like I said earlier in the program, I thought the safety would be in gold, the flight to safety in gold, but right now it looks like, again, it's very narrow. There's still a perception out there that that the government will come to an agreement. But even if they do, 6 months, we're going to look at this in Christmas, Thanksgiving, or Christmas, or New Year's. There's no long-term solution. The government's already working under sequestration already.
Mm-hmm. Frank, I keep reading little snippets, nothing really significant about China. China's worried about a U.S. default, Frank. They're seriously worried. What do you think?
Well, they should be. And last week there was a fund that sold all of its short-term treasuries, and they didn't want any on the books. So we'll probably be seeing more of these events occur. And really, there's other places to invest. People could look at euro. You don't hear really bad news from there anymore. You look at the euro up. In Canada, you don't hear any bad economic news, or in Australia, you don't hear anything. So I think maybe people should be looking for more, other places to take a look at. But what we have right now is just a complete window of uncertainty right now.
Yeah, and if I were China, I would be worried about us. The government shutdown, and they're talking about restoring the government employees who have been furloughed. I don't want them. I don't want them restored. As a matter of fact, I would be happy with a 99% government shutdown. I really would, because I don't miss anything. I really don't miss anything. And why, Frank, have you ever hired somebody to work for you? Or has your dad ever hired people to work for him that have not been necessary? Have you ever hired anybody that's a not necessary person?
Actually, we've had that mistake from time to time, actually, and it didn't work out well. But yeah, it has happened. But the result hasn't been good.
Well, wait a minute. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, did you ever say, hey, listen, everything's working fine. Let's hire somebody that we don't need?
Well, in that case, no.
I can't imagine you doing that.
No.
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while we make mistakes and we bring somebody on board and we go, oh, man, what was I thinking? Yeah, I mean, that's happened to everybody. But do you know of but do you know of any company? Do you know of any research company, any manufacturing company? Let's say a company makes aluminum boats. Can you imagine? The general manager saying, "Look, we got a really good running staff here. Everybody's working hard. We're doing everything we need to do. Let's hire 10% more people that we don't need." I mean, it never happens. Only in the government does that happen. Now, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen a guy in a government job who was responsible for a specific area of a government, like a government department, if you will. They actually hired me to do this guy's job because he couldn't do it. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a government employee having to hire someone from outside the government to do the government employee's job? And here's what happens. They don't fire the guy that couldn't do the job and replace him with the person that can do the job. No. What they do is they bring on another person. So now you have 50%. I mean, you could have one person who was supposed to do the job, and you bring on another person who does do the job. So the person who was supposed to do the job is now the supervisor of the person who does do the job. So now you have 50% more employees in the government than you need, because they should have thrown the first guy out in the first place. Actually, they should throw a lot more than that. I'll bet you really we could get by with 90% reduction in government, and we'd probably be pretty happy with that. But when we talk about bringing jobs back, let's look at them one at a time, Frank. Let's look at jobs one at a time and bring them back one at a time with the plan to eliminate all of them. So we'll say, hey, we'll bring you back, but geez, you're only going to be here for 6 weeks, because then we know we don't need you. So it's going to give you some time to figure out what you're going to do. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com, Underhill Securities. Class, Frank Underhill's with us, and if you'd like to get in touch with him, underhillsecurities.com. So if you have a portfolio and you'd like to talk to him about resource securities, gold, silver, Canadian resources, Canadian real estate. Frank, what else would you talk to people privately about if they call you on the phone?
Well, basically, I'd be talking to them about contra-dollar investing, and I still probably think, people who look at these kind of markets, you got to buy them when nobody wants them, basically. And right now, even though resources are cold, there's still a necessity for them. I was in Southern California over the weekend there, and I just couldn't believe how many cars are on the freeway and how many people come here. So obviously, petroleum is still, here at $100 a barrel, it probably should be taken a second look at.
Okay. So if someone wants to call you, is there a charge for them to talk with you?
No charge. I love to talk. I'm on programs like this. I love to talk.
Yeah. Class, if you'd like to talk to Frank, why don't you call him after the broadcast? 702-987-5449. 702-987-5449. Repeat. 702-987-5449. And Frank Underhill was one of Bob Chapman's most trusted advisors. Frank Underhill and Bob Chapman would talk 5 times a day, easily. Am I exaggerating, Frank?
No. We had good conversations, and he's still truly, dearly missed.
He really is. We're talking about the late Bob Chapman, senior USAPrepares.com instructor. And he was exposing the underbelly of what is happening and how vile and how awful the manipulation of gold and silver is. And he would even talk about how some securities were manipulated, and he was on the inside. He was on the inside, and he carried a lot of weight with him, Frank. People really respected him, and to this day, we all miss him. And Frank, he was right so often about the sociological issues and how society would react, and how he even talked about years ago, how pensions would be rated. And class, I think you ought to consider that maybe your pension might be rated. You know, your money. It's happened in foreign countries, and it can certainly happen to a country near you. Frank, I'd like to share something very quickly. I met a PhD over the weekend at the Mother Earth News Fair in Lawrence, Kansas. And John Dollarhite and I were talking with her, and we were talking about the government shutdown, and I thought that she was all for it, you know, and she said, oh, no, you know, there's a salmonella outbreak, and the government's not there to help. That's the wrong thing to say to us, because it's a factory farm that caused the salmonella outbreak. And with these factory farms that the government supports and endorses and rewards, that we have these problems. Small farmers, you know, if there were an outbreak, it'd be a little tiny one. It wouldn't be a big deal. But because we have these factory farms, it is a big deal. And the USDA is involved with them. Frank, do you have any final comments you'd like to share with us before we wrap up these 2 hours of USAPrepares.com today?
Well, it's ironic how today's supposed to be Columbus Day. All the bank holidays are in effect. It's a bank holiday, but still regular America still goes to work.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? We can get along just fine without the U.S. and probably 99% of the rest of the federal government. And don't forget the state government. We need to eliminate 75% of those positions as well. Meet up tonight, Ziggy's 5:30, Sunshine in Glenstone, Springfield, Missouri. Dr. Judy Wood and I will be on stage. Serious discussion. Where did the towers go? 9/11. Frank Underhill, thank you so much for being with us. UnderhillSecurities.com. Class, above all, honesty and integrity